So the debate between being a homeowner or an apartment renter is nothing new. Quite often though, this debate comes down to emotion rather than cold hard facts, and it is true that owning a home is far more than just a number or an investment decision, so yeah, emotions will play a major role. But what do the numbers say? Is it cheaper to own or rent? And what about long term? Which is better for you financially? Stick around because the answers may surprise you. If you're new to the channel, my name is Elliot. I'm a long-time investor, financial advisor, and educator. Please do like and subscribe to stay on top of the new releases, and now let's get back to the video. So first off, what does it cost you to own a home? That's fairly easy to figure out as the mortgage payment itself is made up of 4 parts and they're known by the acronym PITI. PITI stands for principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Principal is of course the cost of the home minus the down payment, and interest is what it costs you to borrow the money from the mortgage lender. Meanwhile, taxes generally refer to property taxes and insurance refers to homeowners insurance and also PMI or private mortgage insurance, which most borrowers pay if they put down less than a 20% down payment. So what does that all add up to? That is also easy to figure out, and all you need is an online mortgage calculator and then plug in some realistic numbers. Here's a good one from the site NerdWallet. Let's hop on a computer and fill it in real quick. For the cost of the home, we'll go with the US median price as of February 2025, which happens to be $396,900. We'll then add in the median down payment of 15% or $59,535 and the current 30-year fixed mortgage rate of about 6.5%. We'll also add in the average property tax rate of 0.9% or $3,572 annually and the average homeowner's insurance rate of 0.7% or $2,778 annually. And since in this example we're putting down less than 20%, we need to add in the PMI of 1%, which is $3,972 annually or $331 per month. Finally, let's also add in a monthly HOA fee. HOAs are homeowners associations and roughly 30% of all US homes are under one, so it would be smart to include this expense. The US average for a monthly HOA fee is $250, so we'll go with that. Okay, so here's your monthly payment, $3,242. If you take the entire 30 years to pay off this mortgage, you're looking at a total interest payment of $430,290, and together with the cost of the home minus the down payment, you will be repaying $767,655. Keep that number in mind. We'll come back to it a bit later. Now, these costs are right out there in the open, and you know exactly what you're paying before you sign all the paperwork. But what about hidden costs of home ownership? Well, turns out there are quite a few. Probably the biggest hidden cost is maintenance. Among big ticket items is the roof, which is typically replaced after 15 to 20 years, with the other major items being the HVAC system, electrical system, and plumbing. Next in line of expensive problems are termites, which are attracted to wood, and mold, which is attracted to moisture, and dealing with both can be costly. Finally, you need to consider the constant landscaping and lawn care, as letting nature take over your property is neither practical nor looked upon favorably by neighbors and HOAs alike. It's also worth mentioning that American homes tend to be fairly large, and the energy needed to heat and cool them will result in high gas and electric bills, so get ready for that. You will also have to pay for security system, and with 3 or more bathrooms, a lawn to water, and maybe a pool or a jacuzzi, your water bill will also be quite high. Okay, so that was the breakdown of owning a home. Now, what about renting? Here things are far simpler. As a renter in a typical apartment complex, your main expense is the rent and perhaps mandatory renter's insurance. The current median rent in the US stands at $1,607 per month, and you can add renter's insurance for a negligible $10 to $20 per month. So let's call it $1,620. What other expenses are there? You'll have your typical gas, electric, cable, internet, and often water, sewer, and trash pickup fees, and these will add around $200 to $300 to your bill. So for final tally, let's call it $1,900 per month for a typical 2-bedroom apartment. With an apartment rental, of course, you're not responsible for the roof or the HVAC, electrical, plumbing, or landscaping, so maintenance is not an issue, and neither is pest control, as you can just call the landlord to take care of it. You also don't have to directly worry about property taxes, as that cost is spread out among the many apartment residents and rolled into the rent. Finally, apartments are generally smaller than houses and cost less to heat and cool. So there you have it, a side-by-side cost comparison of owning a home and renting an apartment. If you look at just the numbers, it's not even close. The apartment in our example will run you $1,900 per month for rent and utilities, and the house payment will be $3,242 per month, not including maintenance and utilities, and yeah, we need to talk about those. Real estate industry professionals estimate that the average American home costs about $9,250 per year to operate. This accounts for utilities and the average averaged out cost of maintenance and works out to an extra $771 per month. Now obviously major problems like the roof, HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and termites and mold aren't a monthly occurrence, but as a homeowner you are virtually guaranteed to have at least one of these issues creep up every 1 or 2 years, and that cost needs to be factored in. So let's revise the cost of homeownership to a rough estimate of just over $4,000 per month, which will include everything. So as you can see, it's generally far cheaper to rent than to own. Now before everyone starts to type angry comments down below, I'll note a few caveats and exceptions to what I just said. First off, these differences may not be as great in certain markets such as LA or New York, where the cost of renting is closer to the cost of owning. Those, however, are the outliers, and if you take the United States as a whole, renting is still far cheaper. Second of all, it is true that if you buy a brand new home, your maintenance costs will be negligible for a few years, but since brand new homes account for less than 10% of all home sales, odds are the typical person will be buying a pre-owned home with all the maintenance problems that come with it. And finally, it is true that you can own other less expensive types of properties instead of a single-family detached home. These include condos, co-ops, townhomes, and apartments. As such, your maintenance, landscaping, and other costs may be reduced quite a bit. Yes, all these exceptions exist, but again, taken as a whole, the real estate scene points to renting being far cheaper. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the other question brought up at the beginning of the video. Which is better for your finances long term, to rent or to own? Here things are also not what you'd expect. We are brought up to think of a home as an investment. However, it's not. Investments have to appreciate or pay dividends and be liquid enough to be converted to cash easily. A home does appreciate, yes, but aside from the freakish few years during COVID, homes don't normally appreciate as much as you think. Historically, what is considered normal is an appreciation that just outpaces inflation, so in other words, about 4 to 5% annually. Homes also don't pay dividends, unless of course you rent them out, but then you're a real estate investor, not a homeowner. Homes are also not liquid, and the only way to really extract cash out of them is to either sell the property or take out a home equity loan. What about making money when you sell it? Well, that's true. You will generally pull in a profit, but if you think like an accountant and look at the big picture, what sort of profit do you really earn? Remember that total interest you paid on the 30-year loan earlier in the video? The numbers were quite staggering, and I did mention we'd come back to them. As a reminder, the home cost $396,000 and you've paid over $430,000 in interest to the bank, assuming you took the full 30 years to pay off the loan. During those 30 years, you also sank over $278,000 in operating costs and repairs and faced several hikes in insurance and property taxes in that time frame. All in all, if you add up the cost of the home, the cost to operate it, and interest paid, you sank just under $1.1 million into a property that originally cost less than $400,000. Will you sell it for that amount or more? Well, that can be estimated by historic rate of appreciation of American homes, which stands at about 4.27% annually. Plugging that into a future home values calculator, you get a value of $1.4 million after 30 years for a home you paid $1.1 million for in total, giving you a net profit of approximately $300,000, not including the fee paid to the realtor to sell the property. That is a rather poor return on your money, underscoring the fact that a home is a place to live, not an investment. By way of comparison, if you were to invest your initial down payment of $59,000 and then keep adding $2,000 per month into the stock market at a conservative 7%, your 30-year returns would net you nearly $3 million. Now sure, you will need to pay capital gains tax on that and subtract out the cost of the apartment rental, as you do need to live somewhere, but you still end up significantly ahead by at least $1 million, versus if you sank all that money into your home. This really should surprise you if the cost of a home is nearly twice that of a rental. Okay, I threw a lot of numbers out at you, but what actual conclusions can we draw from all of them? Well, there are a few. First, to address the immediate criticism that my analysis will draw, and that has to do with the fact that homeowners can invest while still owning a home. That is certainly true. I never said they couldn't, and indeed, if you're a high earner or have a two-income household, investing in the market is certainly easier. The issue, however, is the well-known phenomenon of being house rich and cash poor. A lot of people over-leverage their buying ability and purchase homes that are too expensive for their income. They certainly qualified for and able to cover the mortgage, but they don't have a lot of money left over to invest or pay down debt. My earlier example simply underscores that if you have spare cash, whether as a result of renting a cheaper place or buying a smaller, more affordable home, you will be better off long term, as the stock market is one of the greatest wealth builders out there and you really need to invest in it. Speaking of investing, where did this whole home investing idea come from? Well, two things here. Homes can indeed be investments, I mentioned it earlier, but only if you flip houses or you're a landlord of commercial or residential properties. And these properties generate cash flow from from rent. If you own a single property and live in it, it's just not an investment and the idea is a myth. Who perpetuates this myth? Well, that is the second item to bring up. There are a lot of vested interests who want you to own a home. From the banks who lend you very profitable mortgages to the loan officers who put together the loans to the realtors who want to sell you a home, there are a lot of interested parties. It's also advantageous for local and state governments that you own a home. Homeowners provide a solid tax base and the money they spend on upgrades and repairs benefits the local economy. A cynic could also say a homeowner has more to lose and isn't likely to come out in a protest or cause any real trouble, as that may mean losing your job and getting your home foreclosed on. True or not, homeownership is clearly perceived as a net benefit to society. So with all that being said, is it better to own or rent? If you look at the numbers, owning and paying a mortgage is more expensive, and this is true now more than ever. A home is also a rather poor investment despite the meteoric rise in home prices in recent years. Additionally, one of the well-known tax advantages, writing off the mortgage interest, isn't as common anymore due to the standard deduction. However, let's pause for a second. Does anyone really own a home just because of numbers alone? No, not really. A home is a person's castle, a place you can have more privacy in, and a place you can do almost anything we want with and customize to your lifestyle and taste. So clearly there are so many other reasons to buy and not rent. In the end, what you really want is to maximize all the benefits of homeownership while minimizing the downsides. Purchase a smaller, more affordable property, inspect it thoroughly to make sure everything is in good condition, and maintain your home well to avoid costly repairs. And of course, try to pay down all non-mortgage debts and invest as much as you can. And if you're not yet a homeowner, don't get down on yourself. You're probably better off and can build wealth faster without all the headaches and expenses homeownership brings. Okay, that was my take on buying versus renting. What do you think? Leave a comment down below, and as always, if you enjoyed this content, please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.